In 2001, A Space Odyssey, released in the year 1968 by film director Stanley Kubrick, Dr. Haywood R. Floyd's briefing is a secret meeting at Clavius Base on the Moon, right after his arrival. This is the only formal meeting among Americans shown in the film. It takes place after the brief diplomatic stopover at a space station, where Floyd evaded the Russians' questions. On the Moon, there are no pleasantries. Floyd addresses a small group of American scientists, engineers, and base officials. The briefing is held in a stark, functional conference room at Clavius Base. About 20 people are seated in an amphitheater-style arrangement. Floyd stands at the front, behind a simple lectern, and speaks in a calm, almost administrative tone. The camera remains sober and detached. Floyd begins by justifying the fake epidemic cover story that has been in place for 2 weeks. As you know, the Russians have been making inquiries about the epidemic at Clavius. We had to cut off all communications and refuse emergency landings. It was regrettable but necessary. He then explains the discovery, an artifact buried 4 million years ago, codenamed TMA-1, which means Tycho-Magnetic Anomaly 1. He shows slides of the black monolith and its anomalous magnetic field. He stresses the need for absolute secrecy. We still don't know what it is or who put it there, but it is clearly not of terrestrial origin. We must therefore maintain a total blackout until we have more information. Any leak could cause a major cultural shock, public panic, and extremely serious international complications. He concludes by reminding everyone that only the people in this room know the truth, and that even in Washington, very few people are aware of it. The scene is short, with no music, slow editing, and static shots. Floyd remains courteous, professional, and emotionally distant. At the end, he asks if there are any questions. There are none, and the meeting ends. Immediately afterward, the group travels to the excavation site to see the monolith in person, but the actual conference or briefing is this indoor meeting. Let's try an analysis. This briefing is the narrative and ideological core of the film's first half. It makes explicit what the space station scene only hinted at, state lying as bureaucratic routine. Floyd is not a villain. He is the perfect archetype of the modern technocratic official, polite, rational, and detached. He presents the lie, the fake news, the epidemic, as a simple, regrettable, but necessary measure. The film is thus coldly ironical. The tone is that of a routine corporate or government meeting, while the stakes are nothing less than the greatest discovery in human history. It echoes the same technique used in Dr. Strangelove, another film by the same film director. Apparent and supposed powerful adults discuss apocalyptic matters with the same bland professionalism as a budget review. Floyd emphasizes the risk of cultural shock and international complications. In his view, humanity is not ready. This reflects the film's and Arthur C. Clarke's central thesis. Human evolution is stalled not by technological limits, but by our own psychological and political limitations. The monolith will force that evolution, just as it did with the apes at the beginning of the film, but human institutions respond first with control and silence. On the space station, Floyd politely dodged the Russians. Here, among fellow Americans, he is direct and fully embraces the deception. The sequence thus shows that suspicion is not limited to Cold War rivalry between blocs. It is also internal. Even among allies, truth is compartmentalized. The encounter with the Russians was surface-level diplomacy. This meeting reveals the real machinery of power operating in a closed loop. The room is white, cold, and lit by fluorescent lights. Uniforms and suits are strict. There are no dramatic effects, no emphatic close-ups on Floyd, no swelling music. The audience is urged to feel the absurdity of the situation. Men in ties discussing an extraterrestrial artifact as if it were a mere logistical issue. It is the triumph of bureaucratic realism over cosmic sublimity. This briefing directly sets up the Discovery mission to Jupiter. By keeping the Discovery secret, the Americans hope to maintain control, but the monolith will soon slip beyond their grasp, just as it will later elude the protagonists from the journey to Jupiter, Bowman, and Poole. Floyd's speech is therefore the last moment when humanity still believes it can manage contact with a superior intelligence. In short, this American meeting is the scene in which the film director most clearly reveals his ironic pessimism. Even when faced with proof of a superior intelligence, humanity responds with bureaucracy, secrecy, and fear. Floyd is neither hero nor traitor. He is simply the flawless product of a system that values control over truth. It is one of the film's most underrated sequences, yet one of the most powerful in conveying its message. We are not yet ready for the stars, because we remain apes who have merely learned to wear suits and hold briefings.
In 2001, A Space Odyssey, the sequence known as Floyd's journey to the lunar crater takes place immediately after the secret American briefing at Clavius Base on the Moon. The space station stopover happened earlier, where Floyd avoided the Russians' questions. After landing at Clavius and attending the briefing, Floyd and the team immediately begin this journey to the excavation site in Tycho crater. Right after the briefing ends, where Floyd justified the fake epidemic cover story and revealed the existence of the monolith, Floyd and a small group of American scientists leave Clavius Base aboard the Moon Bus, a large-wheeled vehicle designed for surface travel on the Moon. The journey unfolds in several visually striking stages. The bus exits the pressurized dome of the base and heads out onto the lunar surface. The film presents spectacular wide-angle exterior shots of the gray, cratered, airless landscape under harsh, unfiltered sunlight. The bus moves slowly and deliberately, kicking up fine lunar dust that falls back instantly due to the lack of atmosphere inside the bus. The interior is comfortable. The passengers, wearing light-pressure suits, sit in a relaxed atmosphere that feels strikingly ordinary and domestic. One crew member hands out synthetic sandwiches, chicken, something like that. Tastes the same anyway. Floyd, seated near the front, makes a video phone call to his 6-year-old daughter on Earth to wish her a happy birthday. The conversation is warm, tender, and completely mundane. The men quietly discuss the briefing and review photos and diagrams of the site. The bus descends toward the massive artificial excavation dug around the Discovery site. It eventually stops at the edge of the pit. The team exits the bus and takes an open elevator that slowly lowers them deep into the crater, down to the black monolith buried there for 4 million years. The sequence ends just before the monolith emits its piercing radio signal, the famous scream, when the sun and Earth align above it. The entire sequence is long and deliberately slow, mostly silent, no music during most of the interior scenes, only ambient sounds of the bus and suits. The exterior shots are accompanied by Georgi Ligeti's Lux Aeterna, giving the journey a solemn, almost mystical quality. This journey is a sequence showing ironical and contemplative mastery of rendering humane limits. The striking contrast between human banality and cosmic grandeur is a production from a genius. Inside the bus, the characters remain trapped in their everyday earthly routines, eating synthetic sandwiches, chatting about office morale. Only minutes after discussing an extraterrestrial artifact and the risk of cultural shock, they behave like ordinary businessmen on a work trip. Humanity carries its small habits with it everywhere, even to the moon. The alien landscape rolls past the windows, yet the passengers barely glance at it. The lunar surface is depicted as a genuinely alien environment. Harsh light with no atmospheric diffusion, ink-black shadows, and absolute silence. The moon bus looks tiny and vulnerable against this vastness, creating a powerful sense of isolation and fragility. This sequence is frequently praised as one of the most realistic and poetic depictions of space travel ever put on film. The briefing at Clavius represented control, organized secrecy, institutional lying, and administrative procedure. The journey to Tycho marks the beginning of losing that control. Floyd and his colleagues are physically moving closer to something they do not understand and cannot master. The monolith will soon escape their grasp entirely by sending its signal toward Jupiter, launching the rest of the story. The bus thus symbolizes a threshold. Humanity is still protected inside its technological bubble, pressurized vehicle, snacks, phone call, but it is steadily heading toward an evolutionary leap. The contrast between the grandiose exterior shots and the prosaic, cozy interior powerfully reinforces the film's central theme. Humanity is technologically advanced, but psychologically still very close to the apes. We may have reached the moon, but we still bring our bureaucracies, families, and sandwiches with us. Just like the opening Dawn of Man sequence with the apes, this journey shows humanity crossing another threshold. The men in suits and spacesuits are about to touch the monolith, just as the Australopithecines did. Yet they still approach it with limited minds, secrecy, routine, and the illusion of control. The trip to the crater is therefore the last moment of normalcy before the monolith forces the next stage of human evolution. Even when faced with the greatest discovery in history, we remain fundamentally human, descending from apes, that is, small, routine-bound, and slightly absurd. There is a tension between the sublime and the trivial, which people cannot yet subsume or unify.
4 million years ago, a tribe of Australopithecines struggles for survival, constantly threatened by starvation and predators. One morning, they discover a mysterious black monolith, a perfectly rectangular, geometric slab, standing in their territory. After an initial moment of fear and awe, one of the apes touches the monolith. The next day, he experiences a sudden breakthrough. He picks up a bone and uses it as a tool and as a weapon. This act marks humanity's first step toward intelligence and dominance. The bone tossed into the air transforms into an orbiting spacecraft, symbolizing humanity's technological leap across millions of years. In this first sequence of the film, the monolith acts as an extraterrestrial catalyst that accelerates evolution by sparking the use of tools. In 1999, American scientists discover a second identical monolith buried beneath the lunar surface in the Tycho crater. It has remained there for millions of years. The moment the first rays of sunlight strike the monolith after eons of darkness, it emits a powerful, piercing radio signal directed precisely toward Jupiter. This lunar sequence is crucial. Without the discovery of the moon monolith, and especially without its signal, humanity would have had no reason to launch a manned mission to Jupiter. The signal proves that the monolith is not just an ancient artifact, but an active device that is alerting something or someone in the Jovian system. It functions like a cosmic alarm or a milestone marker. Humanity has now reached the moon and demonstrated that it has become a spacefaring species capable of finding and unearthing what the monolith's creators left behind. It is this signal that justifies the secret mission of the spacecraft carrying a crew. The true purpose of the expedition is to investigate the destination of that signal, a third monolith apparently waiting in orbit near Jupiter.
Without the response from the lunar monolith, the journey to Jupiter would lack both narrative purpose and urgency. The first monolith grants intelligence. The second monolith acknowledges that humanity has used that intelligence to reach the moon and then invites, or tests, humanity to take the next step by traveling toward the third monolith, which will open the door to the next stage of evolution. In short, the lunar sequence is the bridge that transforms a story about humanity's distant past into a cosmic odyssey, directly linking the origins of man to the destiny awaiting human pioneer near Jupiter. It is coherent and mysterious, not chaotic.